and for the sake of time. Thank you.
We have a plane to take this.
Do you need a piece of paper? Oh,
No. A plate. Sorry, that's my Frenchy accent. Sorry.
Mr. Lazzarini, thank you very much on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for doing this briefing. 2 quick questions. Can you confirm that an UNRWA investigation accuses Israel of abusing hundreds of the Palestinians in Gaza that it detained or arrested after October 7th? And the abuses include sexual abuse. And also, Israel said today that UNRWA's 13,000 staff include 450 members, active members of Hamas and Islamic Jihad. Have they informed you? Have you gotten any information about this? And what's your reaction? Thank you.
Thank you. You want me to answer immediately?
No, please go ahead.
Yes, okay. Listen, I will start with the second question. It's not the first time, and I think today the representative of Israel was also talking about more people, or 1,200 people. These are statements usually being made through social media, through the media, but we as UNRWA, or I as Commissioner General, have never been informed or seized. As you know, we are providing on a yearly basis the entire list of our staff in Gaza and the West Bank and East Jerusalem to both the Israeli authority and to the Palestinian authorities. I have never ever received the slightest concern about the staff that we are employing. The only allegation that have been communicated to me has been on January 18 about the 12 alleged staff. This is an information which has been shared with me on an oral basis, but I felt that this was horrific enough and serious enough to take the action that we have taken. All the other allegations have not been communicated to me, but if these allegations being substantiated, we keep saying that they should cooperate with the UN and provide this to any team looking into this. On the second one, I wouldn't say it's an, you call it investigation of UNRWA? Or, listen, there is a report which has not been made public of hundreds of detainees who have been released, and basically whenever they have been released through Kerem Shalom. There is a kind of circuit where people, when they are arrested in Gaza, are going through, but they also go through Israel, and when they are released in Kerem Shalom. So hundreds of people have basically, in Kerem Shalom, the logistic is UNRWA. There is absolutely no other agencies being there, and we have seen these people coming back from detention, some of them for a couple of weeks, some of them for a couple of months, and most of them coming back completely traumatized by the ordeal they have gone through. And these people have been regularly welcomed. We have provided dignity kit, we have provided food, we have provided clothes, time to realize where they are back, and indeed a number of people have been after that debriefed about their ordeal, and we have indeed an internal report about their experiences, and this report now is also shared with the relevant human rights entities dealing with detention. I keep saying that UNRWA is not an agency looking into detention normally, but there was no one else being there, and it was important, in fact, to receive them in dignity. So To confirm for your question, the answer is yes. There is such a report, but this report has not been. I'm not aware has been made public or should have been made public.
Can you give us any more details?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, you want to take a question?
No.
Please, Edie, let's stick to it because the Commissioner General needs to leave early.
I'm sure we all want to know that.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Well, I mean, what detail do you want to tell you? Basically, what they tell us. It's. I think it's a very broad range of ill treatment, and we heard stories of people not only having been systematically humiliated. We heard quite a lot about people have been being obliged to be naked, picture naked, being subject of verbal and psychological abuse. There have been a threat of use of electrocution. We know that there have been a lot of sleep deprivation or use of extreme noise to prevent people to sleep. We heard about the use of dogs to intimidate the people. So there have been quite a number of various ways of putting people under pressure. When I was in Gaza, that was on the 18th. The last time I was in Gaza was the 16th of June. I heard quite a number of humiliating situations where people were forced to be on diaper, and because they could not access a toilet for days, if not weeks. And basically, this could have ranged people from the age of 15 to more than 80. So we basically had a full range of people coming back and telling us what the ordeal has been. I will not go more into detail now with the report, but just to give a glimpse, in fact, of the stories which have been shared with us. And we had also UNRWA staff who have been gone through this. So it's not on. I mean, we had all type of people, including among them some UNRWA staff who have been very detailed on what happened when they went from one place to another place. It's not that people have stayed only in one place. There was a kind of a circuit depending on where these people were arrested.
The date of your trip, because it couldn't be in June.
No, January. Sorry.
16th.
That I'm just a tyrant, but it was in January. Yes, it can't be in June. You're right. Well, it could have been in June, but not with the same type of situation. Yes.
Commissioner General James Bayes from Al Jazeera. Good to see you again. So you said to us today that it was oral allegations that were given to you.
Yes. You mean the 12?
Yes. Of the 12 people.
Yes.
And then the UN responded. You responded by firing them. OIOS started its investigation. I think that was announced at this briefing in January the 26th.
Yes.
It is now over a month since then. And even now, the OIOS team, we're still waiting for them to arrive in Israel because they've been waiting for their permissions. Given that your agency is, as you told the General Assembly today, at breaking point because the response to this was those 16 countries cutting their funding, are you? How frustrated are you by the fact that Israel is taking so long to cooperate with the UN? As I understand it, no one in the UN still has seen the raw evidence, just allegations.
I guess you had a briefing of OIOS, or there was a communique a few days ago, correct?
End of last week, we briefed from here.
Okay, yes, you had a briefing here. That's what I saw. I have no more detail about this, but I keep telling donors that the OIOS is like, they will be looking at if yes or not, there is sufficient indication to bring cases into a criminal prosecution, a trajectory. Here we are talking about looking into the misconduct of individual, for which, if proven, will have consequences. And I keep saying that if indeed these allegations are correct, it's nothing else than just a betrayal of UN value, but also a betrayal of the Palestinian refugees in general. What's important is really the other process, a review, looking into risk management. And I know that a number of donors are looking at basically how will the agency react and respond to some recommendation coming out of this risk management review of the agency. What are the processes which needs to be improved? In my contact with the donors, I understand that many of them would like to come back. Most of the time, decisions are not a decision based on foreign policy consideration, but it's more based on, I would say, optic or domestic public opinion in the various countries where they are, because supporting UNRWA, can be also divisive depending on the country where you are. So obviously I'm frustrated, but I'm also, what I was telling to the GA today is UNRWA is an instrument of the member state. It has an objective. It symbolizes, in fact, and interests the plight of the Palestinian refugees. The right, Resolution 302 is very linked to Resolution 194, which is also the issue of the right of return. And basically, I wanted to draw the attention to the member state that the attempt to eliminate UNRWA are not just based on neutrality breaches of some of the staff, but in reality has a much broader political objective behind it, which in a certain extent is to eliminate the status of refugees and make sure that this is not part of a final political settlement. We keep hearing, in fact, from UNRWA detractor asking how come that the Palestinian refugees are still refugees today from one generation to another one. They most of the time compare with UNHCR, but I also keep reminding that you can be a refugee with UNHCR for the second, third, or fourth, or fifth generation. Look at Western Sahara, look at Afghanistan, look at Somalia, look at all this lasting, protracted conflict. The only difference between UNHCR and UNRWA is that UNRWA is not requested to promote a durable solution, because we should hand over our activities the day there is a lasting political solution, and this belongs to the member state, where our UNHCR is promoting durable solution, either through resettlement in our countries, integration in the host countries, or the return. Even for UNHCR, the bulk of the durable solution anyway is the return.
Thank you. Let's take a question from Ibtisam and then Mike.
Thank you. My name is, hi, good to see you again. My name is Ibtisam Azim, Al Arabi Al Jadid newspaper. I have a question. I had a question about actually the issue that you raised, the third point you raised regarding what you said to the General Assembly when you said that eliminating UNRWA, that if they will change the mandate or find a new organization, that should be done without compromising the refugee question and the right of self-determination, etc. So my question is, how could that be even possible? Like, if you want to do, if you want to bring a new organization within the UN, how can you do that without, and when you eliminate UNRWA, how can you do that without eliminating all these issues that you mentioned?
You raised a good question, and I mean, for those who are familiar, we had this discussion 2 years ago. when I tried to look at alternative, promote partnership in the midst of the financial crisis, and basically was wondering who else within the broader development system or UN system could provide some of the activities. I'll just give you one example. And let's go outside the peak of the emergency crisis. But social protection safety net, it's primarily cash or food. We have within the broader UN family an agency specialized in cash and food, which is a World Food Program. Now, at that time, the proposal was to say, if we are in such a difficult financial situation and other agencies have, better support from a donor because of the nature of their activities, why not, on behalf of UNRWA, under the auspices of the mandate of UNRWA, having a partnership with an organization like WFP to provide cash and food to the Palestinian refugees. When we had this discussion, the perception within the community was to push back. And they pushed back first because they felt that asking someone else to come in was the beginning of the dismantlement of the agency. There was this fear, but it was also at the time there was no real genuine desire to reactivate the political process. Now, if today, after what happened, we are in a situation where genuinely there is, again, a political horizon, we could certainly, with this type of reassurance, imagine that some activities could be undertaken or implemented in partnership. I'm not saying it's easy. There is also a question of perception, which is extremely important, of trust, of reassurances, but that's something I wanted to initiate 2 years ago as a Commissioner General. But today, I'm really warning the donors who are tempted to look at alternative of UNRWA not to do this in a way which would undermine, in fact, the right of the Palestinian refugees, undermine the current mandate being conferred to UNRWA. So I would say it's almost, I keep telling them, it's not just a technical issue. We are dealing with something much more complex than the pure technicalities. And even you might find partners for this kind of activities, but honestly, who can provide education from the first grade to the 10th grade to 100,000 girls and boys across the region if you are not a state or a functioning administration? I don't know. I don't see where the response is. So I keep warning, saying we have to be very careful on what we want. To throw the baby on the water and all this would also mean that we get rid of an essential instrument to succeed in any type of transition. And when we talk about Gaza today, transition would be absolutely key.
Mike, please go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Commissioner General, Mike Wagenheim from I-24 News in Israel. The New York Times report that you discussed earlier, a follow-up question on that. UNRWA has consistently said that it does not have a police force, it does not have intelligence services,
Yes.
it does not have the capacity
I said it
to
many
carry.
times.
Yes, you have said it, UN
Yes.
officials have said it, everybody said it. Does not have the capacity to carry out investigations. Those investigations of Hamas tunnels underneath its headquarters, underneath UNRWA schools, weapons that are found in UNRWA schools. UNRWA just kind of shrugs its shoulders. We'll put it down in a report, but we don't have the capacity to ask questions. We don't have the capacity to investigate. And yet, in the midst of a war, able to carry out an investigation, a report of 100 allegations of alleged Israeli abuses. How is that inconsistency possible, that you have the capacity in the midst of a war to investigate Israeli abuses, 100 or more interviews, according to the Times report, but the allegations that kill the credibility of your organization, you have no capacity to investigate those?
I'm not 100% sure I fully comprehend the question. What I can tell you is the following. If you refer to the underneath tunnel in Gaza Strip, and I had this discussion even before October 7 with a number of Israeli officials, where basically whenever UNRWA undertook inspection of our installation and the suspected cavity has been identified, we constantly inform the de facto Hamas authority, constantly inform the COGAT. Now, when the Israeli, and we protested. Now, when the Israeli told me, listen, there are tunnels everywhere in the Gaza Strip, my answer is to say, you have more information than I do have. You have the expertise. Let me know if you believe that under a given school there is, yes or not, a tunnel, because you have the military expertise to know this. I, as the head of a human development organization providing primary healthcare and education to primary and secondary school, I do not have the expertise to look at what is underneath. And not only I do not have the expertise, but I do not have the mandate. And if it is a peace and security issue, make sure that such a mandate be given to those who can inspect underneath. Now, third point I want to do is there have been now a lot of allegation. Now, if you look at only the UN premises, 150 UN premises of UNRWA have been damaged during this war. Some of the schools have been completely destroyed. Some of the premises that we had to vacate the north have been used for military purposes, either by Hamas combatant or there was an Israeli army presence. We see it on the social media. We saw it at the headquarters when we were talking about the tunnel. We had more than 400 people who have been killed while seeking protection in UN premises. More than 1,000 people have been injured, and there are now allegations also of 1 or 2 tunnels. I do believe that we need to have a board of inquiry after that, a proper investigation, because it's not okay that the UN, which belongs to the member state, be blatantly disregarded. We need to know what happened. So we need an investigation. If the tunnel have been discovered underneath of UN premises, it needs also to be investigated. And we need to understand why so many people have been killed in UN premises. Today, I have no access to the north. Most of the incident seems to have reportedly coming also from the north. But yes, I agree with you. We need an investigation.
I believe you need to go unless you would like to take...
What time is it?
It's 10 to 7.
I take one more question.
Okay.
Sorry, I have to go to the airport. That's the only reason why. Otherwise, I would love to stay with longer.
It's not far.
All right, please
Depends
go
on traffic.
ahead.
Thanks a lot. Merci, Monsieur Lazzarini. Nice to see you again, Carrie from Le Monde. Just a quick question, because you said in front of the GA today that your organization was on the brink and
Yes.
it's in a very bad finance situation. When you think retrospectively, 5 weeks ago, you took this decision of announcing the end of a contract for these 12
Yes.
people of UNRWA. It led to all the donors' retractations. Do you have any regrets? James talked about frustrations. I'm talking about regrets.
I think it's more frustration than regret. No, I could not keep this information for me like that. Also, if I was informed sooner or later, this information anyway would have made public. I still believe today the fact that we have taken swift decision, swift action, and that we have now, this review, we have the OIS investigation, will certainly allow, once we have, we show that we are properly indeed also following up on some of the recommendations, I believe that a number of countries will come back. All, certainly not, but the majority will come back. My understanding, based on the discussion I had with many of the donors, they have taken the decision because they had to take the decision, most of the time for domestic reason, but many of the same donor see how indispensable the agency continue to be, and if the agency would be further undermined, what the impact would be in the short, medium term, but also politically. So I have no regret, but clearly, to be honest, I did not expect that within 24 hours, it was a Friday afternoon, I ended up at the end of the weekend with 16 countries having taken the decision taken basically over the weekend for most of them. So that was also quite swift, I have to say. Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Appreciate it. I apologize for everybody else. Thank you.
Sometimes